Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and we have a very special guest today, Onnie Michalsky from Moms Without Capes. Welcome to Imperfect Momming.
Thanks, Alicia. It's great being here.
And tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I am foremost a mother, and I'm also a licensed therapist here in Montana and a wellness coach, a life and wellness coach. I'm a mom of 6. And so I started Moms Without Capes as a way to, one, help other mothers kind of give themselves permission to prioritize themselves, to take off the superwoman cape and to really change the way they feel towards themselves and to kind of find themselves, to help to find their sense of self outside of their roles of parent, partner, and professional. And then I created this program, like I created my whole business because I felt like I had the experience, the education, and the background to be able to help other moms. So that was how Moms Without Capes became what it is today. Like you mentioned, I live here in Montana with my husband. We're going to celebrate our 24th anniversary this year. So we've been married a long time. And I love what I do. So I'm excited when I get to bring my passion to another audience.
Yeah. I love the idea of Moms Without Capes because I am very present to the connotation of wearing a cape, trying to be a superhero, trying to do it all, right?
Yeah.
And as you were talking, I was like, I have a different connotation to wearing a cape as a mom, and it's just being fantastic. Like
And mine is like the opposite, kind of like that
yeah.
opposite. And we get that, I get that a lot. Like we're all super women and we're super moms. We're supposed to be super moms or anything. And I'm like, no, like let's slow down and escape that hustle culture and really prioritize ourselves, because then when you're constantly, because I myself like am a recovering, not recovered, I am recovering super mom, because I was so caught up in doing all the things, thinking that I had to do all the things in order to be a good mom, that I really was missing out on so much. And so now I'm learning that it's okay to slow down. It's okay to rest. It's okay to put yourself off the back burner and really prioritize yourself and engage in self-care, engage in activities that make you you. Like I felt like my kids didn't really even know me because I put up this shield. I was the scheduler. I mean, I still am scheduler. You ask my husband, he'd be like, oh, that's all she does, right? But like I had decided like to be more intentional with making sure that I am engaging in activities that are me, like outside of my roles that I play, because I was so wrapped up in all of those roles. It became attached. Like I became attached to like the productivity, and I felt like it was like me proving my worth. And so now I'm like on a movement to get away from that, to be able to be present and to be able to find joy in those everyday moments and let people know who I am, because I had to find out who I was. Like motherhood changes us, right? I think we can all agree on that. It definitely changes us. But like really getting back in touch with like, well, who are you? Because we pick up this role and we put on our cape and we're like, oh, we've got this. And meanwhile, like we've lose our own selves. And so Moms Without Capes is really about getting back to who you are, but an even better, improved version of
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, and if you I have the image whenever I think about capes, I realize that there's a million different superheroes, but I think of Superman. He was always my favorite. Um, and when you think about Superman, Superman is also Clark Kent. And Clark Kent is mild-mannered. He's he's the person, right? He's the one. We could equate it to the pre-mom version of you.
Yes.
And that Superman is the
persona.
superhuman. He's the mom version, right? He does all the things, but he's part of, I think it's the Justice League, that like I don't really do comics or anything, but like as do you?
I don't know if I don't know. Does this go on video or is this just
Yes, it's
audio?
video too.
It is. Okay, so I don't know if you can even see this.
Oh, I love that.
But here's a picture of me and
Superman. That's so funny.
I keep it right next to my desk. So when you said that, I was like, that's really funny. I have a picture of me with Superman.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, okay, when I was little, when I was in high school, I was obsessed with Superman and Clark Kent. And I actually loved Clark Kent more than I loved Superman. Like Superman was cool. It was a cool thing that Clark Kent could do, but Clark Kent was like he was
real deal. Yeah.
He was the real one. And when the one and only Superman will always be Dean Cain. Okay. Let's just don't get it twisted. Dean Cain. And that's why I fell in love with Clark Kent, because Dean Cain did a really good, like, sexy Clark Kent and not weak and feeble and like,
right.
He just like Clark Kent or Dean Cain can't do anything weak and feeble, right? Like, and so, and I love when he goes on all the TV shows. I'm trying to think. He was on Supergirl too. He was the uncle.
Okay.
He was the dad who raised Supergirl, but he got lost and then came back. Anyway, a little obsessed. Okay, so I had a point. But the Justice League, sometimes like Superman can do it all. Right. But he still has his team. He still has his support system.
The support system, right? And as super moms, we don't often ask for help. We think that we have to do it all by ourselves. And that's another thing, like learning how to ask for help, learning how to put up some boundaries, because a lot of times when you're so like people pleasing is a huge part of that, like thinking that you have to do it all perfectly. So like perfectionism, and really learning how to let go of a lot of those things to be able to give yourself like grace and treat yourself with compassion, and learning that it's okay, right? Like it's okay not to do it all, because like I said, with myself, I had a lot of things, like my worth was attached to a lot of things that it wasn't serving me. And so learning really a new way of doing things and detaching from that and really being comfortable in my own skin as myself allowed me to go further than like thinking like I had. It was stressful. It's still, I mean, I just did in fact, it was funny because a couple of weeks ago I did a whole master class on stress and dealing with stress, and it was one of the most stressful days of my life. Like my laptop broke. Like there was like all these things going on, and I was like, all right, I've got to coach myself. I've got to like go through this. Like, what am I trying to help others with? Like, these are the tools that I need for myself to be able to get myself kind of at a functionable, like calmer place, because we know that stress isn't good for us, right? Like, but we can't remove it altogether from our life, but we can equip ourselves to better deal with it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go back to the Clark Kent analogy just for a second, but the cool thing that came into my mind about that analogy was that Clark Kent really didn't know who he was before he became Superman. So if you want to do this parallel to mom,
yes, absolutely,
right? Like we are someone, and our society doesn't, this is my new thing, like our society doesn't promote like figuring out who you are. Like
it'd rather tell you who you are.
They would rather tell us who we are and sell us more, like
right,
sell us who we are. And then, but when he became Superman, he discovered himself. He integrated all the parts of himself. And so as a mom, you might not know who you are before, and then you forget who you are, who you thought you were anyway, when you become a mom, and then you have to rediscover who you are and reintegrate all the parts of yourself. And with your story of the stress seminar and it becoming stressful, I think that's an important thing for us coaches to do when we're teaching our clients, because we have to live the tools.
Yes.
Right? And I had a coach friend who was teaching a seminar. I want to say it was about identities. I don't remember what it was, but it was something, and she, like, being the authentic you, I think was the thing. And she started the course, fumbled on some of her words, and so then she wrote down every single word and did it again.
It's a lot of work.
Right? Wrote down everything she wanted to say and basically just read all of it. And then that didn't feel authentic.
Right.
And so she started beating herself up and all this. And I'm like, all of that's part of the process, because you had to experience this to be able to go for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I don't know why this came up too, but a girlfriend of mine texted me yesterday and she said, how do I not lose my beep on my daughter when she spills my coffee cup and then plays in it while I'm having me time?
Yeah.
And I said, well, what did you do? And she said, well, I told my daughter, I'm really upset right now, and I need you to go over there because I'm really upset, because the cup could have broke, and you made a mess and all the things, right? And I said, well, but I mean, you didn't lose.
You didn't lose your.
And she goes, yeah, but I really wanted to. And I'm like,
yeah, but you
didn't do it. Like, you just proved. And so what the question she was actually asking, I realized after the fact, was, how do I do that without sending my daughter away? Because she was thinking sending her daughter away was the wrong thing.
Yeah, like ultimately she was like, she was just trying to get like a friend, like, am I still a good mom? Like that was at the root of it. Like,
or tell me
what, needed that reassurance.
And tell me what because I am a bad mom is the underlying thought. So tell me what to do, because you're a good mom and you know what to do.
Right.
And thank you for dissecting that.
Yeah.
Talk about her on the podcast all the time. She's like, I'm happy to be your content.
Her ears are probably ringing.
Right. I love her to death. Actually, she sent me a message this morning that I had on voice message, that I haven't heard yet. So I'm interested to hear what she says. But like you said, that's the underlying, like, reaffirm that I'm a good mom. And that's what we also do, is we seek external validation or external solutions for our problems. And,
when we hold the answer all along, like we hold that answer. Yeah. But it's learning that self-trust. Right. And I just want to go back to that analogy that you used about Clark Kent, and like, when he became Superman, then he was able to really discover himself. And the same thing, like when we become a mom, like we are given this opportunity to really dig into who we are, but so often we don't. Like again, like you mentioned, we compare ourselves, we measure ourselves against all of these other moms that we see, whether on our social feed or on television shows, like, instead of just knowing, like, leaning into our own intuition. And we even read like all kinds of, like, I mean, I read them too, like What to Expect When You're Expecting, and like all of the books, like thinking that there's this answer that lies outside of us. when
Mhm.
really, when we start shifting that belief and believing that we are like who, I don't know how everyone's faith, but like God gave us our child because he thought that we were the perfect parent for that child, and learning the tools that are going to help us really step into our power
Yeah.
is key, I feel.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly don't believe that we were supposed to do this alone. We are not even
No,
supposed to just do it with our
no,
spouse.
no, but we think we
But
are.
but that's your point, is we think we're supposed
Yeah,
to do it by ourselves. But you
yeah,
gotta elect your Justice League, guys. Like
yeah.
you can still be and you can feel like a superhero in that I mean, women are phenomenal. And I'll tell you, so
Agreed.
I've birthed 6 children. I'm a mom of
Okay,
1. I've birthed 6. I'm a surrogate mom. Uh,
okay.
and I had 1 C-section, and I always thought that moms were amazing. But after I had a C-section and I was like, whoa, hang on a second. So moms have these major surgeries and then they hand you a human to take care of that you've never done before if this is your first one.
Hmm.
Wait, what? What? Like I don't remember where I said this. I don't know if I wrote it or if I went live. I think I went live because I was challenging myself to go live in on Facebook in February. And I said, moms are freaking superheroes, man. Because, like, it is hard
Hmm.
to heal from a C-section,
Yeah, and then to have to go
not,
right into at
and then
this
go
or at the
right
same
into being
time.
a mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and like, so many of us do it without support.
Hmm.
Where everybody talks about bounce back ability.
Right.
Nobody
Right.
talks about how hard that is.
Hmm.
I mean, every other pregnancy um the before the C-section, 3 days later, and I was working because I've always been
Yeah.
self-employed the
Yeah.
whole time. 3 days later, I was working. I have fantastic, amazing jobs that I love. So it wasn't like work isn't work, but like
Right. Right.
I was
But
back to
nonetheless,
work.
you were still having to get back to work. Yeah.
I was working, and it was really hard with the C-section, where it was like it took me 10 days before I could even thinking about working.
Yeah. Your body was healing.
Yeah.
And pregnancy itself like has so many different like your hormones are everywhere, the emotions are everywhere. Like to even have to focus and concentrate and like think clearly, it's just not happening. Like there's biological forces that you were trying to work against right there,
Yeah.
Alicia.
I know. And my last guest and I, we were talking about how she cried. Her son wouldn't stop crying, and she cried right along with him, and she
Mm,
realized that she had postpartum anxiety.
yeah.
And I said, let's be clear. You don't have to have postpartum anxiety to cry when you can't get your baby to stop crying.
Right. Right. You don't need an official diagnosis.
I am not saying that that's not what you experienced or that that's not
Right.
true for you, but I was
Right.
14 years old and I was not postpartum, and my nephew would not stop crying, and I was crying right along with him because I
Hmm.
couldn't get him to stop crying.
Yeah.
Like, that is there's nothing that makes you feel more helpless
Yeah.
than
You can't
not
help.
understanding how to satisfy a baby's needs. And we have a biological response to crying.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're supposed to have that response to crying because
Right.
uh,
Set up. That's how we're made.
that's how our species survives. Because if we could just ignore a baby's cry, like, none of us would be here.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, sorry, that was a fun tangent that I just went
Yeah.
down. So, you said you were a licensed therapist also, so that's
I am,
started
yeah.
out doing
Yeah,
that
so
first.
that was part of so a little bit more about my story. In 2011 was when I really so up till 2011, I was homeschooling. We had moved across the country. I was doing it all. Like I was volunteering. I was a Girl Scout leader. I was very engaged in our like very active in our community. We moved from Philadelphia area to Montana at that point for a simpler life. That was like what we were seeking. But when we moved, we bought a hotel. We moved to a smaller town, but I ended up becoming the leader of the Friends of the Pool. I started doing more things. Like it really, I did not simplify. I just got right back into what I knew, which was to like wear all these hats. And I had met a friend and she wanted me to go to a Zumba class. And I wanted to go try it. I wanted to go try the class, but I could not figure out how to do it without disappointing somebody. Like in my mind, I felt really guilty about leaving like my kids. My kids were my oldest was our oldest was 11. And then we had down to twins. And then I just had another one. I was pregnant when we moved across. So we had a wide range of kids, but I felt like everything had to be perfect in order for me to go to this class. Like dinner had to be made, the house had to be clean, the laundry had to be done. I was homeschooling, so all of the lessons had to be done. The rooms had to be clean. Like everything was like in my mind, like things had to be, stars had to line up for me to go to this class. So I kept making excuses, right? Thinking that the world was going to fall apart if I stepped away for a minute, thinking that I was being selfish if I was to step away, like and do this class. Like I had huge amounts of guilt and shame and like all these things, but yet I wanted to do this class really bad. So one day, I feel like the stars did light up. Like, things just seemed to be in order. Dinner was in the crock pot. It was like my husband was there. He's like, just go. So I went and I loved it. Like it was an hour of like pure like energy, the loud music, the dancing. I just kind of like lost myself in the, even though I knew not a single move, I really loved it. And so the next time I went, it got a little bit easier. Like it got a little bit easier to let things go. And so I continue to do this. I continue to push against the guilt and recognizing that the world was not falling apart, like that it was going to be okay, that I took this hour to myself. And so much to the point that I ended up becoming an instructor. After a few months, I decided to become an instructor because I just love the energy. I love the feeling that I got. And I was like, hey, if people are depending on me to do this, plus it was like in my thing, like as you heard, it was in my like wheelhouse to just be the leader. Like, I was used to just like stepping up and being the leader. And so I got this. I went for the certification and I was like, if people are depending on me, I'm going to show up, and I continue to do that. And then one thing led to the other, and I became certified I got certified as a group fitness instructor. And then through that as a health coach. So in 2017 was when I was really itching to do something. I'm like, my kids were getting older. Well, I had another one in 2014, our sixth one, but I was a stay-at-home mom for 14 years. And I was like, I already had my master's in counseling. I was looking at studios because at that point I was leading little girls dance classes. And I'd become the health coach. I'm like, I want like a studio or something, but we lived in a really small town. So I started looking and then my husband's like, why don't you do something that you actually went to school for? Right. And so I decided to get licensed as a therapist. So this was like years. I had gotten my master's in 2003. Then in 2017, decided to go back. I still needed like 2,300 more supervised hours in the state of Montana to get licensed. Plus, I had to take the national counselor exam and all that. Decided to do that. And then in 2019, when I was licensed, I was certified as the health coach. I decided to start my own business. And I did some like playing around with like niches or niches or however you say it. And one of the first things I went to was weight loss, because when I had started doing Zumba and really putting myself up higher up on my to-do list, I started losing weight. And I really got into like the health and nutrition side of it and had lost a lot of weight. But then when I started my own business, I started gaining it back. I started gaining I'm like, this is worse than imposter syndrome, because I feel like, who am I to like be teaching, like be coaching women on losing weight when I can't get a handle on my own weight? And then I started like just doing some more like digging and like kind of like soul searching, journaling and everything. And I'm like, you know what it was? I'm like, the fact that I started prioritizing myself and I started recognizing like what it was that was holding me back from putting like doing things that I loved. That's where I want to help other women. That's where I want to help other moms, is learning how to like what lights them up, whether it be going and doing a dance class or writing a book or taking horse riding lessons, like whatever it is that they're holding themselves back from doing because they feel that they are not going to be a good mom, quote unquote. That's where I want to be. Like, that's where I want to help moms give themselves permission to do those things. But they've got to go through that process. They've got to learn that, you know, to deal with the perfectionism, to deal with the people pleasing, to set up healthier boundaries. And that's where I'm like, my mental health, like my history with like mental health and like counseling and like my counseling profession, that I can take things from wearing my counselor hat and help moms, because my background is cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's a lot of like the challenging, the negative thinking, which is like where that quieting your inner mean girl and all of those things that I learned.
That should be a book title.
Yeah, all of those things that I learned in my counseling hat and as a mom in my own journey, I can now help other women do that. Right. And like I said, I'm not a recovered. Right. I still struggle with it. And that's the piece that I'm like, hey, I've got an edge. Like, I've learned how to do this. I've learned how to make time for myself and really shift those underlying beliefs that allow me to feel worthy in and of myself, where I was able to get rid of that guilt and get rid of the shame and all of the things that were keeping me, were holding me back from being me, being the Clark Kent.
What I really resonate with about your story, besides having 82 different businesses that you all love.
We no longer own a hotel. Let me just say that. We sold that in 2020. Yeah, we don't own that. And I no longer teach Zumba. You have to let things go. I could not do it all. And even in my business, like now, like I was on Facebook, I was on Clubhouse, I was on TikTok. Like I was like, all right, I'm doing the exact same thing that I'm trying to coach. Like, enough is enough. And I can't do that anymore because it just creates that overwhelm and stress. Yeah. So no, I don't have 92 businesses. Okay.
I'm in the paring back phase. I love all the things that I'm doing, but I'd like all the things that I'm doing to be like two things and not.
Yeah. Trying to figure out which ones you want to keep.
There's probably 5 to 7 of them. That I love doing, but it's like I don't have to do all the things.
Right. Or at least not all at the same time.
At the same time, right. And that's what I'd love, is to get really solid in one where then I can pivot and do, you know, probably the other and just and that be that, right. And because I'm on a weight loss journey myself, and I'm going through a company. I love direct sales companies, and where they have, you know, where they support independent contractors and they have, you know, individual, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm working with a company that they have, you can sign up to be a coach. And and I was like, oh, and I'm really loving this journey. And I know that as I'm loving the journey, that I can help other people.
Right. You pay it forward.
Start their own journey and then, you know, have residual income from that. And I'm like, but I don't need to do all the businesses. And like, I'm loving it, but I also love my coach, and I would love to bless her business with the referrals, right? At least for now, right? At the very least. Anyway, so I'm learning to say no.
Right.
Practicing saying no. But the other part that I resonate with your story is the wanting to have all the things lined up so that, I have my podcast. At this point, I record 3 episodes a week. I
Okay.
release 1 a week.
Yeah.
So
So, so you're kind of ahead. Yeah.
pre-recorded through this episode's probably going to release at the end of August, beginning of September. Like,
Wow. Okay.
we are
Yeah.
pre-recorded, right?
Yeah. So do you give yourself a break? Like after a few months or like a month
I'm
or two? Do
at
you
this
give yourself?
point, I'm going to. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you
I,
deserve it. Holy
yeah,
smokes. Not that
yeah,
you deserve a break. Like you shouldn't have to deserve a break. That's not what I meant.
yeah.
But like if you're so far ahead, you
I
should
could
give
take
that
a
to
break.
yourself.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
you
and
can.
the last time I took a break was I stopped recording from probably September of last year until mid-January of this year.
Nice. Nice. Yeah.
Where I was pregnant with twins. And I think I heard you say you have
Yes,
twins,
we
so
do. We
you
have a
know
set
what that feels like.
of twins in there. Ours are
Yeah.
16. So
And so you know what that feels like. And so I was
yes.
like, all right, I'm taking a break from that part of the business. But there was a point, I think last month, where I was feeling like I was feeling behind. I was feeling really
Mhm.
behind because there's things that I do with the episodes to promote them, to
Sure.
all
Yeah.
the things. And I wanted to be caught up. And which, if you want to be caught up, well, I wanted to be caught up because I felt behind.
Yeah.
And I wasn't behind. I was actually on schedule,
So you
right?
were
So,
behind, like you were behind your in your mind. You
uh-huh.
were really,
Yeah. So my timeline,
yeah.
what I would envision, I'm behind.
Mhm.
But the
Our
reality
expectations,
is,
yeah.
yeah, the reality is I'm actually on, like, I think today's Thursday. So today's episode released this morning, and now I need to do all the things for the next episode.
Right.
I would at least like to be a month ahead at the very least. That's what I would like, is to be a month
Mhm.
ahead. Um, because I know that stuff happens, life happens,
Right.
things
You
get
plan
in
you,
the way.
you plan for the unexpected because it's
I'm
bad. It's
planning for
gonna
the
happen.
unexpected. And it is a matter of control. It's feeling like I want to feel like I'm in control, where if I'm not ahead, then I'm out of control,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and so when I realize, no, I'm on schedule. So as long as sometime between now and next Wednesday, I schedule out next episode, I'm still good,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And if I schedule some time between now and, you know, next episode to do 2 episodes, then I'm still ahead,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but
But it's
not,
taking the time to reflect on that and to see
yeah,
like, hey, like to challenge your own thoughts and those expectations that you're having and seeing like and giving yourself credit because
yeah,
you've done a lot of good work. Like you did a lot of hard work.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't feel like work because I love doing the
Yeah.
podcast. I mean,
Well,
I love
that's
this
the
part of the
bonus. That's the
podcast, right?
bonus.
The
My
conversation
podcast
part,
is my favorite part of my business too. Like I love that.
right?
And I have a Facebook group, and that's the other thing. I'm like,
Yeah,
let's do stuff. Come on.
yeah, absolutely. So tell us, uh, uh, is there a piece of advice that you want to share with moms?
Sure. So I would say I want you to take a minute and just write down what you're telling yourself. What are the excuses that you're giving yourself that you're standing in your own way and really taking a minute. It won't take longer than 10-15 minutes. It's worth it. I promise. I know that use your bookends. Morning, night is usually the best times to just dive in and just sit with yourself. And it may feel scary. It may feel like you've got a million other things to do, but I promise that this is worth it to just write down, get in touch with what you're thinking. What are the excuses that you're telling yourself that's keeping you from stepping into yourself, stepping into, who you are and who you are under your mom hat, and write it down. I'm a huge advocate of writing things down, right? Like journal, just kind of do a brain dump of like, what are the excuses you're telling yourself? And then one by one, come up with some evidence that's going to dispute excuses because it's there. As Alicia and I were saying, we were saying, like, ask for help. Like, you need to build yourself your support system. You are 100% responsible for your own happiness, for your own life. And it's important to start challenging those thoughts that are holding you back.
And that made me think of a mom made a suggestion yesterday or reflected on one of my posts about that once a month she takes 4 hours of her day, of her week, of her month, 4 hours.
And if you're not used to doing that, that sounds huge, but okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, she considers it a priority.
It is a priority for her, and I'm a baby steps, one bite at a time kind of a person. So well, I'm not. I actually just jump into the deep end. But I know not everybody's like that, so I've learned that, you know, if you can't do 4 hours, start with one, and then next week or next month do 2, and so on and so forth. But like I started this with on Thursday mornings from 7 to 9:30. There's a writing group that I'm part of, and I take my son to school in the morning, Monday through Friday. And so I would get to the writing group by 8:30, and then I'm not in writing mode because I missed the first part where we get into writing mode, right? And I'm doing other stuff and I'm in mom mode, and then it takes 25 minutes just to
transition
get into writing mode, and then it's over, you know?
Right. So, maybe you need to find a writing group that meets at a different time.
Yeah. Well, so what I asked, that's another option. But what my ask was that, hey, boyfriend who loves me and supports me and I love and I support, will you take my son to school?
Yes.
Or 1 day a week for me? And he's like, 100%. And then I forget to remind him the night before, so it's a little okay. It's worse. This is the second time.
Yeah. Okay, that's okay. Progress.
Yeah. So we're still a little learning the routine, a little chaotic, but you know, it started with, hey, this is I do the rest of my business on my own time, and this is, you know, I love this group, I love this person who puts it on. And I want to be I want to be there. I want to be a part of it. So can you, you know, help me out? Anyway.
Yeah, no. And it took you just like, like, I mean, he was fine to do it. It was just, he didn't even think to ask that. And sometimes, you know, and it's hard for us to ask for help, but usually it has good results.
Usually you know,
if you're asking the right person, the right time, usually has
that love us and want to see us happy and healthy, you know, support us. And sometimes they can't, and it's not that they don't believe in you and they don't support you, but
you just don't know.
By tangent.
Yeah. But so good for you. Give yourself credit.
Exactly.
We don't do that enough.
I do that a lot. But you know, spend 4 hours reflecting on, you know, the last month and projecting into this month. What do you want to accomplish? What are your goals? And then at the end, at the next time, did you accomplish those goals? And if not, move them forward. Like reflect, do some reflecting. Like we can't, who said it, that the unexamined life isn't worth living? I believe that wholeheartly.
Yeah, I was like, I know that. I know the unexamined life, but I can't think of it.
Google it.
We'll think of it later. Yeah. Google it. You gotta Google it.
Yeah. Anyway, is there a book that's been instrumental in your personal development journey?
Yeah. So I think it was like one of the first business books that I read when back in 2017 or 2018. And I even remember I was in the Dallas airport when I finished. Like I couldn't read it fast enough, but it was the Everything is Figure Outable by Marie Forleo. And I think I've read so many other books since then and definitely have learned a lot. And that's why I was laughing when you said this book was, when you asked me this question before, and I was like, I asked this to all of my guests as well. And I always find like, oh, it's the hardest question, but yet I've never answered it myself. And so Everything is Figure Outable, just the title itself really. And then I heard this other quote. It was like, confidence is simply like the belief that you can figure it out. Like it's not knowing all the answers. It's not having to figure it all out for your clients or like having to know what the answers to everything. Like it's really just feeling like, okay, I can figure this out. like having that courage to just step up to the plate and be like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it messy, but I'm going to figure it out. And that whole like progress over perfection thing. So the whole book is really just about that, like just having faith in yourself and believing in yourself, which I think is a huge thing in not just business, but in all of life, all the areas.
Absolutely. No, I love that. It's a great title too. The book that I've picked up and started a chapter and put back down, but I'm going to pick it back up is called Getting Shit Done. How to Get Shit Done. I was like, excellent title. And that's the only reason I bought it. I didn't know who this chick was or anything.
Yeah, but the title itself.
Like, title.
That's what I need.
I want to get it done. Yeah. Where can our listeners find you?
So the social platform that I'm on is Facebook. That's like, I mean, you can find me in all of them, but I'm most active on Facebook. I've got a free Facebook community that we do lots of challenges. We have a book club going on in there. We're going to start doing some more live social events. I go live every Thursday in it. And you can learn all the ways to like take off your cape, your proverbial cape. So Facebook, my website, momswithoutcapes.com. And you can find me lots of places, but come join my Facebook group. And I also have a podcast. Might as well mention that, right? Yeah. Got a podcast, same name, Moms Without Capes. And I touch on all of the topics similar to what we talked about today and all the things that will help you get out of your own way.
Well, thank you so much for being here and pouring into our guests and having a fun conversation with me. And like you said, like I said, it's my favorite part of my business. And, but you know, it's hard to say that. It's like picking a favorite kid. I love all the parts of my business. I'm like, there's an animal around here breathing. Oh, there it is. But we have a husky and she's very vocal.
Okay.
And mostly she kind of growls at us, but every once in a while she just goes.
Big old sigh.
And that's
we have a pug. We have a pug here. So I have many Facebook lives that are like floating out there on the internet where you hear snoring the whole time. Because especially like when I have a heater going, he'll come and like lay right by my feet. And I don't even hear him because I'm so immune to it because he does it all the time. But like I'll be on a Zoom call and somebody be like, what is that noise? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's my dog.
Yeah. The last several episodes, yesterday when I recorded one, the appointment was at 1:00. And so at 1:20, the dogs start coming around. Because at 1:30 we go for walks, and that was set up by my boyfriend because that's his lunchtime, and he works from home 3 days a week, and so I work from home now 5 days a week, and so when he's not home,
they come to you, and they know. That's weird how they know.
They know because I'll go with him when I don't have an appointment. And so now it's mandatory that I don't have appointments between 1 and 2, and somebody's at my house, and that also never happens with the ringing of the doorbell.
Right.
So funny. Anyway, thank you so much for being here and everything that you're doing in the world.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is fun.
Absolutely. So there will be another episode of Imperfect Momming coming for you next week, and until then, keep healing. Bye, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AlysiaLyons.com. That's AlysiaLyons.com. See you next time.